Hi, everyone, and welcome to RedThread. My name is Iman. I am an analyst from the APAC protein team, and I cover mainly protein livestock like pork, beef, and chicken. I'm joined today by my colleague Kushbu, who covered the global plant based protein market. Today, for our listeners, Kushbu and I just published a new white paper with the title Plant Based Meat Growing Pain Challenging Market Conditions Likely to Persist. We really wanted to look under the hood of the plant based industry and figure out why the hype from 2020 has hit such a massive wall, especially when we compare it to the traditional meat sector that I cover.
Exactly. And to set the stage, the data we uncovered is quietly sobering for the plant based sector. We have seen the category move entirely out of its hype driven growth phase and into a severe prolonged slump. If you look at US sales, they have contracted every single year since their peak in 2020. Right now, sales are sitting about 26% below peak levels. For a lot of the manufacturer we looked at, this isn't just a bump in the road. It's a plant-based protein adjustment.
That's really interesting, especially when you compare it with the broader protein market. On the conventional side, like beef, poultry, and pork, we have clearly seen high food inflation. So prices for traditional meat have gone up, but what we found is that conventional meat remain a core part of the diet. So consumers, they continue to buy it even when their budget are tight. They might trade down from beef to chicken, but they stay in the meat category. Plant-based meat, Kushbu, doesn't have that luxury, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. Not at all. That brings us to the consumer base, which is actually shrinking. The data shows that in the US, household penetration for plant based meat fell from 17% in 2020 to just 13% in 2024. That is loss of roughly 5 million purchasing households. The core issue here is economics. Plant-based meat is still carrying a massive structural premium, often 50 to 100% more expensive at retail than conventional meat equivalents. And that price disparity is total deal breaker. It has been observed that shoppers treat plant-based meat as a highly premium good. When money gets tight, that expensive plant-based burger is first thing they drop. They immediately revert to traditional affordable protein. And for people, they're less likely to buy it when manufacturers are actively selling back on marketing and real visibility to save money. It's hard to convince a family to pay double for a product they don't see as an absolute necessity.
Right. So that's quite a strong observation. Building on that, beyond pricing, what are the factors do you think are driving the decline in consumer penetration in the plant-based protein category?
One of the most interesting parts of our research was digging into health perceptions. When plant based meat first exploded, it wrote this massive health halo into the mainstream. That halo is fading fast. When consumers started reading the back of plant based packaging, the narrative shifted. Yes, plant based has zero dietary cholesterol, but shoppers are now hyper focused on clean labels. They look at the plant based patty and see a paragraph of complex ingredients like methyl cellulose binders, heavily refined oil, and really high sodium levels. While the traditional meat industry case is totally different.
Absolutely. So in the traditional meat industry, the product is as simple as it gets. So it's a single ingredient, basically a whole food. So Kushbu, from your perspective, do you think people consider plant-based meat as processed food?
Yeah, exactly. We noted that a large chunk of health conscious consumers now view plant based meat as ultra processed. So rather than sticking with plant based meat, they're either reverting back to traditional lean meats or they're going strictly to whole food plant proteins like lentils, chickpeas, and beans. The highly engineered middle ground is losing its appeal right now.
That makes sense. What about the taste and texture? Because we can't talk about a food product without talking about the actual eating experience. Conventional meat has been the gold standard for human diet for decades, and you have the natural juiciness, the umami flavor, the complex fibrous texture that you can get from cuts like steak and chicken breast.
Yeah, you are right. In terms of taste and texture, Plant-based has done an okay job mimicking ground or mincemeat, like a burger patty or a nugget, but they still struggle immensely with those whole cut textures. This perfectly explains the drop in household penetration we found. The thing is, people try it, but it doesn't become part of their regular life. A curious omnivore might buy a plant-based sauces once for a barbecue, but if it doesn't taste as good as the real thing and it costs twice as much, there is zero incentive to make it a weekly habit. Having said that, the industry is going to need some serious R&Ds like shear cell technology where plant protein are twisted and stretched under heat so they form long meat-like fibers, and scale extrusion where plant proteins are pushed through high-pressure machines to cook and shape into meat-like textures. Just to solve these foundational flaws in taste and textures.
So it seems like taste and texture are still a big hurdle. How do you see the future of plant-based meat as compared to conventional meat products? Do you think the industry can overcome these kind of challenges and make the product more appealing for regular consumption?
I think true prosperity and sensory equivalence probably won't be reached before early 2030s. So, for the near term, plant based meat is going to really struggle to displace this conventional meat at the center of the plate. It's a long road ahead. Though one bright spot is the concept of blended meat, that is, mixing, say, 30% of plant ingredients with 70% of conventional meat. In this case, you get the superior taste, juiciness, affordability of conventional meat, but you also drastically lower the environmental footprint and maybe sneak into some dietary fiber. Until plant-based tech catches up, that might be the smartest path forward, I think.
I completely agree. And this is definitely an area to watch closely over the coming years as the product continues to evolve. Kushbu, thank you so much for sharing these valuable insights. And that brings us to the end of today's discussion. For more insight, you can find the plant-based meat growing pains white paper on the S&P Global platform. We also publish various weekly, monthly, and quarterly reports covering US, globally, and actually APAC market that include chicken, beef, pork, plant-based protein, and also feed market. So thank you for listening, and we look forward to having you with us again next time.